If you've ever been shattered by your own family, the people who were supposed to love you the most, to the point where you wondered if you'd ever feel joy again, then listen closely. Because sometimes life has a twisted, hilarious way of serving the ultimate comeback. I never in a million years thought I'd be laughing so hard I couldn't breathe, all because of my parents. Especially not after 2 years of painful silence, deep heartbreak, and being painted as the unstable, dramatic, problem child of the family. But that's exactly what happened the second I opened that thick envelope from my father's lawyer. Before I take you through this unbelievable, laugh-out-loud moment that changed everything, I need one small favor. If you've ever been the black sheep, the family scapegoat, or the one everyone blames when things fall apart, do me a favor, smash that like button and subscribe right now. It helps this channel reach more people who feel alone in their pain. And tell me in the comments, which city or country are you watching from? I love seeing how far these stories travel. Maybe you'll realize you're part of a much bigger family of survivors than you ever knew. Now, let's go back to the day my parents made it painfully clear that I was completely on my own. It all started with 1,000 tiny wounds that slowly turned into deep scars. My sister was the golden child. She could never do anything wrong in their eyes. Every single argument, every family gathering, every holiday, my parents always took her side, no matter what. If she forgot my birthday, it was because she was too stressed. But if I forgot hers, I was selfish and ungrateful. When I got accepted into my dream college, they barely glanced up from their phones. When my sister got a B on a simple test, they threw her a full celebration party. The breaking point came on my graduation day. I had worked incredibly hard for years, balancing classes, part-time jobs, sleepless nights, and I managed to graduate with honors. I sent them invitations, called, texted, and even begged them to attend. The big day arrived, and I kept scanning the crowd, desperately hoping to see their faces. They never came. Later, I learned they had gone on a luxury spa weekend with my sister instead. When I finally confronted them about how deeply it hurt me, my mother just rolled her eyes and said, "You're always so overly dramatic. Why can't you just be happy for your sister?" My father simply shrugged and replied, "You need to grow thicker skin. Life isn't always fair." Then came the constant criticism about my husband. They said he wasn't good enough for me, that he was a step down, and that I was making the biggest mistake of my life. They told everyone I was unstable, that I would never find real happiness. The rumors spread quickly through the entire family, friends, and even the whole town. I became their favorite dinner table story, the perfect warning about what happens when you ignore your parents' advice. So I did the only thing left to do. I went no contact. I blocked their numbers, deleted their emails, and began building a life without them in it. It wasn't easy at all. There were many nights I cried myself to sleep, questioning whether I had done the right thing. But slowly, I started finding real peace. My husband and I created a warm home filled with genuine laughter instead of constant judgment. I surrounded myself with friends who felt more like true family than my own blood ever had. 2 full years passed. I truly believed I had moved on and left that chapter behind. Then one ordinary morning, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find a well-dressed man holding a thick envelope. "Are you your name?" he asked, checking his clipboard. "Yes," I answered cautiously. He handed me the envelope. "I'm Mr. Dalton, your father's attorney. I need you to review and sign these documents. It's quite urgent." I took the envelope, my heart racing. "What is this about?" He paused for a second. "It's better if you read it yourself. I'll wait right here." I closed the door, sat down at the kitchen table, and stared at the envelope for what felt like forever. My hands were trembling as I opened it, expecting another accusation or some new attempt to pull me back into their chaos. But what I read inside was completely unexpected. It was a formal request asking for my signature on a family trust amendment. My father wanted to transfer a tiny piece of land, barely the size of a parking spot, into my name. The reason: the city had changed the zoning laws, and without my signature, my parents couldn't sell their own property. The entire deal, worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, was completely stuck because of this small patch of land I didn't even know I still owned. I read the document twice, then a third time to make sure I wasn't imagining it. The irony hit me like a wave. After years of being called worthless, unstable, and a constant disappointment, I had suddenly become the only person who could save their big financial deal. I burst out laughing. I laughed so hard I had to lay my head on the table. Tears rolled down my cheeks, not from pain this time, but from the pure ridiculousness of the situation. A few minutes later, there was another knock. Mr. Dalton looked in with a worried expression. "Are you all right?" I wiped my eyes, still chuckling. "I'm more than all right. This is honestly the funniest thing that's happened to me in years." He looked confused but relieved. "So, will you sign?" I leaned back in my chair, enjoying the moment. For the first time in years, I was the one holding all the power. I slid the document across the table, my laughter slowly turning into a calm, satisfied smile. "Mr. Dalton watched me carefully, still unsure whether I was going to sign or burn the papers. I could see the tension in his shoulders and the nervous tapping of his fingers on his briefcase. He was used to dealing with people who demanded control, but I wasn't that person anymore. I had spent 2 years learning how to stand strong on my own, and I wasn't about to give that up for a simple signature. "Let me make sure I understand this correctly," I said, my voice steady but filled with quiet amusement. "My parents need my signature to sell their property." The same parents who told everyone I was mentally unstable, the ones who skipped my graduation, the ones who called my husband a downgrade. He nodded, swallowing nervously. "Yes. The new zoning laws require approval from every title holder. Your father didn't realize you were still listed as a co-owner on that small parcel." I almost laughed again. "So after everything, I'm the only thing stopping them from getting their 6-figure payout." He nodded once more, this time with a touch of sympathy. "I know this is uncomfortable, but your father said it's just a formality. He thought you'd understand." I raised an eyebrow. "Did he say anything else, Mr.?" Dalton hesitated, then took out a folded note. "He asked me to give you this." I opened the note, hoping for at least some sign of regret. Instead, it contained just one sharp line in my father's handwriting. "Do the right thing for the family." I stared at those words, feeling a strange mix of old anger and fresh amusement. The right thing for the family, as if I hadn't spent my entire life trying to do exactly that, only to be pushed away whenever I needed support. I looked back at Mr. Dalton. "You know what's funny? My father always said I was too emotional and too dramatic, yet here we are, and I'm the only one who can fix his problem." He gave a weak smile. "Families can be complicated." I nodded, folding the note and putting it in my pocket. "That's putting it mildly." I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, everything looked normal, cars driving by, people walking dogs, sunlight shining on the rooftops. But inside me, everything had shifted. For the first time, I wasn't begging for a place at their table. I was the one deciding the menu. I turned back to Mr. Dalton. "I'll need some time to think about this. I want to go over the documents with my own attorney." He nodded, a mix of relief and worry in his eyes. "Of course. I'll inform your father." As he left, I sat back down, the papers still in front of me. I thought about all the times I had tried to make peace, to be the bigger person, to forgive and move on. I remembered the missed birthdays, the lonely holidays, and how my parents had always chosen my sister over me, no matter how much it broke my heart. I called my husband and told him the whole story. He listened quietly, then said, "You don't owe them anything, not after everything they put you through." I knew he was right. But a small part of me still hoped for some kind of closure, that maybe they would finally see me for who I truly was. That night, I pulled out my old journals and reread the painful entries from my darkest days, when their words cut like knives, when I doubted my own mind, when I wondered if I would ever be enough for them. I realized I had wasted so much energy trying to prove myself to people who never truly wanted to celebrate my success. The next morning, I contacted my attorney, sent her the documents, and asked for her honest opinion. She called back within an hour, her tone clear and professional. "Legally, you have no obligation to sign. You could actually negotiate for a portion of the sale proceeds, or you could refuse entirely. The property cannot be sold without your approval." I thanked her, feeling a powerful new confidence settle over me. For once, I wasn't the one with everything to lose. A few days later, Mr. Dalton called again. "Your father is getting impatient. He wants to know your decision." I smiled and let the silence stretch for a moment. "Tell him I'm still thinking," he sighed. He's not used to waiting, I laughed softly. Maybe it's time he learned how. That same afternoon my sister called. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. She skipped any warm greeting and jumped straight in. Look, I know things have been difficult, but this is really important. If you don't sign, Mom and Dad could lose a huge amount of money. Can't you just do this one thing for the family? I listened to the desperation in her voice. For years she had been the favorite, the perfect one. Now she needed something from me. I'll think about it, I replied, then hung up before she could say more. For the first time I felt truly free, free to choose, free to laugh, free to decide what family really meant to me. The following week was strangely quiet. My phone kept receiving messages from unknown numbers, old family friends, distant relatives, even my parents' neighbors. Some tried to guilt-trip me, others begged, and a few even made threats. I read every single one, but I never replied. I spent my days working, cooking with my husband, and taking peaceful walks in the park, letting the fresh air clear my mind. For the first time in years, my life finally felt like it belonged to me. One evening, as the sun was setting, Mr. Dalton called again. His voice sounded more uncertain than before. Your father asked me to remind you that the sale is time-sensitive. He's under a lot of pressure. I almost laughed again, but this time it was gentler, almost bittersweet. Mr. Dalton, do you know what it feels like to be called crazy by your own parents? To have your biggest achievements ignored, your marriage ridiculed, and your name ruined in front of everyone. He stayed silent for a moment. I'm sorry, I can't even imagine. I nodded even though he couldn't see me. I used to believe that if I just tried harder, they would finally accept me. But now I understand that some people only want you around when you're useful to them. He cleared his throat. So what should I tell your father? I took a deep breath, feeling the full weight of the moment. Tell him I'm not signing, not unless I receive a real apology. Not unless he acknowledges the pain they caused me. I'm done being the family scapegoat. There was a long pause. I'll let him know. After hanging up, I felt lighter than I had in years. I realized I didn't need their approval, their money, or even their apology to be okay. I had already built a beautiful life surrounded by people who loved me for exactly who I am. A few days later, another letter arrived from my father. The handwriting looked shaky, the words chosen carefully. He still didn't offer a real apology. He simply wrote, I hope you'll do the right thing, family is all we have. I read it twice, then set it aside. For him, the right thing had always meant whatever he wanted, no matter how much it hurt me. But I was no longer that same person. That night, my husband and I sat on the porch watching the stars. He gently squeezed my hand and said, I'm really proud of you, not just for what you decided, but for the strong person you've become. I smiled, feeling a warm glow I hadn't felt in a long time. I'm proud of myself too. The next morning, I emailed Mr. Dalton. My answer is no. I wish my parents the best, but I won't sign anything until they acknowledge the hurt they caused. I hope they find peace, but I'm no longer willing to sacrifice mine for theirs. He replied simply, understood. Weeks went by. The sale eventually fell through. My parents lost the big payout. And for the first time, they had to face the real consequences of their choices. My sister called one final time. Her voice was softer than I had ever heard it. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't realize how much pain you were carrying. I hope one day we can talk. I told her maybe someday, but for now I still needed space to heal. As the seasons changed, so did I. I started finding joy in simple things, quiet mornings, a good book, peaceful walks with my husband. I laughed more freely, worried less, and finally let go of the constant need to prove my worth to people who had never truly seen me. If you're listening to this and you've ever been the outcast, the black sheep, the one who was always too much or never enough, I want you to know this. You are enough. You don't have to give away your peace or your worth for anyone, not even family. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say no, and let the laughter finally return to your life.